This story happened about 2 years ago. My husband and I had just had our newborn son, Carter. We had also just moved into our new house out in North Carolina. My husband works for a trucking company, and I stay home to take care of our son. Well, with my husband's job, he normally works overnight shifts. It's not uncommon for him to come home from work at 7 or 8 in the morning. It was August, and my husband was working an overnight shift as usual, which left me and Carter alone at the new house. I honestly didn't mind him working overnight shifts. I found the time by myself peaceful and relaxing. But anyway, it was around 10 p.m. at night, and I had just checked on Carter in his crib. He was sleeping soundly. I decided that I was hungry and went downstairs to our kitchen to grab some leftovers that we had from a restaurant that we went to recently. I was heating up the leftovers in our microwave when I decided to look at our back kitchen window, which faced the woods and the trees. I was expecting to see the moon and maybe some stars above, but what I was not expecting to see was a man's face pressed up against the window. Like, this guy's face was plastered to the window and watching my every move inside. I screamed like hell. I screamed so loud that I could hear Carter upstairs starting to cry. I grabbed a kitchen knife and locked myself upstairs in my son's room. I called my husband and told him that there was a strange man looking at me through the windows. He said to stay locked in the room that I was in and to call the police. I did what he said. Police came out and, of course, they couldn't find the man anywhere. I filed a report and the police said they would drive by our house for the next couple of nights. Well, the next day, after my husband got home, we decided to walk around our property a bit, just to see if we could find out anything. And dear God Almighty, did we find something. On the outskirts of our property, I'm talking maybe 80 yards out, my husband and I found this sort of makeshift tent. It was barely held up with logs and this tattered blue tarp. We pulled the tarp back and couldn't believe what we found inside. It was stolen stuff from our house. We found my blouse and 2 of my husband's t-shirts. We found canned food from our pantry and K-cups. But the most disturbing thing that we found were the photos that were pinned up to the tarp. They were selfies of the guy that I saw last night in my window. There was a selfie of him in our bed, one in our living room, and even one in our son's room. And I cannot tell you how violated we felt and how terrified that this man had stolen from us and been in our house. The guy was never found. We burned his makeshift tent. We now have 3 pit bulls and 1 gun each in the house. We haven't seen the guy since, and if we ever do, it's shoot first and ask questions later. Thanks for listening. So, a few months ago, I was sleeping over at my good friend Ashley's house. And for context, we're both 16 and female. Ashley's parents were away at their beach house for the weekend, which meant that we had the house to ourselves. We were eating junk food and watching some dumb horror movie on Netflix when there was a knock at the front door. It was almost 11 at night at this point. We were home alone and we were watching a horror movie, so our nerves were already high enough. We debated on answering it because we didn't know who would be knocking this late. There was another knock. We both decided that we would answer it together. We opened our front door and there were 2 guys standing there. They had to be in their mid-20s. They both had on jeans and a t-shirt. When we opened the door, they said they were here to deliver a pizza. The first problem with that was we didn't order any pizzas. The second problem was, even if they were here to deliver a pizza, they didn't have any pizza boxes or bags in their hands. They were literally just 2 dudes standing at our front door. We told them sorry, we didn't order anything. They pretty much ignored that and then asked if they can come inside. At that point, I slammed the front door in their faces. I locked the door and yelled from behind it, "They need to leave now or we're calling the cops." I could hear one of them say something about a pizza and being rude, but I didn't care. Ashley and I went around the whole house and made sure the windows and doors were locked. We texted her parents too and let them know that there was 2 strange dudes being weird outside. After we watched the 2 guys walk off into the night, we figured that we were both safe, but we were wrong. Maybe 2 hours after that happened, we had both fallen asleep in the living room watching some TV show. I remember that's when Ashley shook me awake frantically. I asked her what's wrong, but she covered my mouth and shushed me. She whispered softly and said that someone's inside the house. We both sat there quietly and listened. That's when I could hear footsteps creaking from upstairs. It was unmistakable that something or someone was moving around up there. We didn't move from our spot. Ashley quietly dialed 911. Within 10 minutes, an officer was out at our place. We let him in and he searched the whole house. When we went upstairs, Ashley's parents' bedroom window was wide open, even though we went around the whole house and made sure that every window and door was locked. Her parents had this tiny safe box in their closet, and that was missing, which means someone had broken into it and stolen it. Ashley and I knew that it had to be those 2 guys posing as pizza delivery boys. We gave the police the best descriptions possible about them. This investigation is still ongoing. No one has been caught yet. I just thank God that they didn't do anything to us while we were asleep. Like, they could have killed us or kidnapped us. Ashley's parents are glad that we're okay. The thieves got away with some high-end watches and jewelry. If they ever catch the guys, I'll be sure to keep you posted. Stay safe out there, everyone. Not too long ago, I was home alone while my parents were away visiting some family in upstate New York. And for context, I was a 16-year-old male at the time. It was midday, and I was at our house playing Madden when there was a knock at my front door. I went to open it up, and there was this man in his mid-30s standing there. He introduced himself as Dario and said that he was opening up a new art gallery in town and wanted to give discounts on his work to the local people to help gain attention. Honestly, he didn't seem threatening or anything like that, and I thought it might be cool to see some of the paintings, and I told him that he could show me them. The first couple of paintings he showed me were actually really good. They were of crashing waves on a beach, but after like the 3rd painting, this is where things started to get bad. The rest of the paintings he showed me were really demonic, like bestiality type stuff, people suffering in what looked like hell. I mean, I get that it was art and I didn't want to judge him, but I got really uncomfortable looking at those paintings. And I was starting to politely say thank you for showing me the paintings and try to close the door. He actually put his hand up to stop me from shutting the door and asked if he could come inside. I told the man no, and to get the hell away. I slammed the front door shut and locked it. For like 20 minutes, he just stood in my driveway, looking at my house. I opened up my window and told him to leave, and then he did. But it doesn't end there. Later that night, I want to say around 10:30, I was in the kitchen making myself a bowl of cereal. As I was pouring the milk, I heard this noise from behind me. We have a cat, Ace, who always comes in and out of the house through the cat flap in the kitchen door, so I figured that's what it was. But when I turned around, I shit you not, there was someone's hand and arm sticking through the cat flap, trying to reach the door handle. I ran over and stomped as hard as I could on the arm. I heard whoever it was scream out loud in agony from the other side. I pushed back the blinds of the kitchen door and saw that man Dario, who was trying to sell the paintings from earlier, sprinting off into the night. I was so scared that he was going to come back. I called my dad, and he told me to stay in the house and call the police. I did. The officer even stayed in his patrol car all night to make sure that nothing would happen. And get this, no new art gallery opened up in our town. I couldn't find any artist in the area by the name of Dario, so I have no clue what he was planning on doing by trying to break into my house that night. He was never caught, and I never saw him again.